All right, so I have Dr. Rodolfo Bonnin on the line today to provide a testimonial for ARCH Profile. Welcome, Rodolfo.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us about your organization a little bit, and perhaps why you started using assessments in the first place.
Sure. I am an assistant dean and an associate professor in the Department of Psychiatry at the medical school at Florida International University of Miami. The school has been in place for over a dozen years. And one of the important elements that we wanted to do in terms of like educating our students, obviously they know all of their basic science, all of their so-called clinical skills. But what we wanted to do was provide students with something that would help them in terms of communicating better with patients and communicating with family, and also having an awareness or self-awareness of the patient's needs. That was one of our main objectives. And so part of that was to find a mechanism, a learning tool, essentially, that we would use for the students directly, that would help them. And obviously, emotional intelligence has, what, 100-year-old history or whatever. And so we went down that route. One of the criteria that we had was that we wanted to make sure that we had something that was not specific to medical students. We wanted a tool that we could use that was like so-called human, normal human, because we wanted to have the students understand the emotions of their patients as non-doctors, right? As people who don't really know that much about medicine or the mechanisms of medicine. And so it was important for us to find something that was outside of the medical community, and there were quite a few within it, but we decided to find something external. The other criteria that we had was to find something that would provide the students with an objective feedback mechanism or report, so that instead of one of their professors telling them how they do in a particular situation, we wanted something that didn't have the element of a potential bias. So that was one of the big attractions that we had with finding your survey. And ultimately, we had various options, but we felt that yours was the most effective. And we also found that it really is the most effective, because the students are their reaction to it is very positive. We rarely ever get any contradictions in terms of like students not agreeing with the results, which is really nice, encouraging. And students, basically, they kind of know this stuff about themselves, but it's also great to have it in writing and to have an objective feedback tool to provide them with, and they can also review it periodically. So it's been a great learning tool. We feel that it is definitely a part of developing a better doctor. And the students are always providing positive feedback about it. So
Absolutely, and so we are talking about bedside manner, right?
oh yeah, for
And
sure.
and this aspect of healing that is so important for the patients and for their families to feel like they're not just a number. They matter, right? They are taken care of, and they are truly cared about. So I think this work that you're doing is so important, and this is really what is missing from the medical profession, from many doctors having this sterile clinical approach to patients. So clearly you are fighting against that. So kudos to your organization.
Sure.
Bravo.
Thank you.
What was the process like for you, Rodolfo, to the onboarding and the use of the assessments? Is it
Right. So
challenging,
yeah.
difficult?
Exactly. So challenges, I'll just start with the challenges. There weren't really any challenges other than how we were going to integrate it into the curriculum. It is a regular part of the first year experience for our students. It's administered during their professionalism course, their first one. It's a year-long course that the students take, and it involves the very things you mentioned about bedside manner, talking to patients, talking to families, giving bad news. And I think one of the most important elements of the emotional intelligence survey is to be able to have an awareness and a self-awareness of the student communicating with the patient or the future doctor, right? So it's very easy to provide bad news, so to speak. And I shouldn't say it's easy, but the words can come out, and it's usually one way. It's better to have a doctor that understands how their patients are going to react, and to also look for those things. And I think that the emotional intelligence serves that purpose. And as a result of that, we spend 2 hours on this particular subject, like I mentioned in the first year, which is showing them how this actually works in patient care. So it isn't just about, how to communicate or how to understand your environment or whatever, but it also adds the element of the patient's family, or even your colleagues if you're working in a team, a health team. So, that was like the areas that we wanted to make sure that we got across. And I wouldn't exactly call it a challenge. Again, it's been very smooth, since day one. And then, how it's integrated, we provide an hour-and-a-half lecture on the history of emotional intelligence, but it mainly focuses on its impact on doctors and patients, and most important, it focuses on how to use emotional intelligence as a tool. And something as simple as developing your own empathy towards the patient is something that emotional intelligence does address. Not only does it provide you feedback in the survey, the feedback report, but it's also something that we talk about with the students afterwards, and that's what happens. So they do the survey, they take the test, and then afterwards we all get together in small groups, and then we discuss the outcomes. I discuss my outcomes with the students as well as all the other faculty, because we get into small groups. And then we talk about how relevant all of this information is towards patient care. And then we also talk about the students' weak areas, and we ask them, or we invite them to talk about how they're going to be able to address that, how they're going to be able to develop it, and then also how we can help them in our professionalism class to develop the skills that they may need to improve. So, the process has been great. Like I mentioned, very little challenges.
Excellent. So essentially, you're using it as self-reflection tool,
Sure,
conversation starter,
for sure.
and kind of a roadmap to developing empathy and the ability to recognize emotions, right?
Absolutely. And, we've also um, validated that emotional intelligence is something that can be developed. I guess there's a myth out there about emotional intelligence. You either have it or don't. And I can tell you that at least among medical students, they develop those skills that they were weak in throughout the academic year. So it's been good.
Absolutely, because to a large degree, I mean, yes, it is a skill, and yes, some people are born with more natural empathy and social skills, perhaps. But to a large degree, it is about mindset, right? Being willing to look for those cues. Because I have personal experience with my mother and my father-in-law. Like, they don't tell their doctors what's going on with them, right? They will deny and they will cover up issues. So the physician needs to be able to pick up on the subtle cues and draw it out of them. And emotional intelligence definitely helps them to do that.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I think that students need, I should say the doctor or medical students now, they need to develop an environment of trust. You know, they need to develop that doctor-patient relationship. And the way to do that is to improve the interaction that they have. And the way they do it is essentially through their relationship, you know, the doctor and the patient. And when that happens, then it opens the door for the patient to not only trust, but also be able to disclose things that they may not be disclosing, even to their, you know, most, intimate partner. There are things that physicians hear that, you know, people's partners do not. So it's very important for them to be prepared. Obviously, they have the preparation of knowledge, but in terms of the social skills that emotional intelligence provides, I think that this is definitely an area that that it helps them.
Absolutely, and they need to develop great relationships with their team as well, as you said, right? The nurses, the auxiliaries, and so forth, because these are the people who are on the front line, who are with the patients most of the time, right?
Correct.
So if it's a two-way street, then they can get much more information out of the relationship as well, which in turn helps the patients.
Yes, right.
Well,
Sensitive. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, this is amazing. I really appreciate the work that you are doing. Now, are you doing anything to equip them with the stress management techniques, with coping techniques?
Yeah.
Because this is a fast-paced career, right? And the demands of the emotional and of course intellectual demands as well, but the emotional demands can take a toll on people. What are you doing to help them develop those?
Yeah, that's a pervasive issue within the medical community, not just medical students, but also doctors, right? Unfortunately, there's a high rate of stress, dissatisfaction with their jobs. There's also a high level of suicide, unfortunately, you know, starting with medical school and, you know, ending throughout the careers. Um, I can tell you that mental health is something that's very important. It's something that our school has an entire team ready for it. And interesting you mentioned that, because I think that part of the impact, the indirect impact that emotional intelligence has, that experience of talking about, you know, their communication style, their behavior, helps them in terms of a better awareness towards mental health. And I think that, you know, there is a connection there. And again, it's something that's important for, I think, all medical students to be aware, because let's face it, medicine is a very complicated, difficult, and stressful job.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess you would recommend other universities and other medical schools to use an assessment like that, right? And to
For sure.
implement that into
Yeah.
their curriculum.
Yes, I don't think that emotional intelligence, you know, is a, you know, a panacea or, you know, a pan type of approach, but definitely healthcare, you know, medicine, nursing, obviously psychology. There's a definite need to have an awareness, a self-awareness of one's communication style, especially if they're going into those, professions. And, you know, if we really want to get, you know, down to some very important subjects, like for instance, a large percentage of people who had taken their lives, who had committed suicide, had seen their physician in the month prior to taking their life. And I'm sure that there's some communication deficit that was going on that wasn't taken care of, that should have been taken care of. And I'm thinking, you know, there again, it's all related, I think, to emotional intelligence.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. picking up on those cues and making people comfortable enough to disclose something like that, right?
Absolutely, right? No judgment, right? Just literally like what's going on, and let's follow through with whatever it is that you disclosed.
Yeah, and taking
Yes,
the time because, like if you are in and out in 5 minutes, the relationship is just not forming.
yeah,
And
yeah. That's
uh,
that's a complicated area, because unfortunately doctors have so many patients and they have deadlines to meet. So, but it's true. But if you can optimize that interaction, then it works just as well.
uh, you're right because you can actually create rapport very, very quickly. And a lot of that is about the energy, right? Like how you how you your presence, um, how you approach it, your facial expressions, and being in control of that, being aware of all of that is quite essential. Well, Rodolfo, thank you very much for speaking with me.
Of course,
I appreciate the work that you are doing, forming the new generation of doctors who are aware of their empathy, emotional intelligence, and the emotions of their patients. So, thank you for the work that you're doing.
oh, thank you. And likewise, thank you for providing this survey. I mean, it really helps them. Your organization indirectly helps them become better doctors. So that's a good thing. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.